Welcome to the Family Business, where I'm pleased to announce that I get to speak with Michaella Corso and Isa Fujiwara. This is the Family Business, where we talk about how family and career are intertwined. Thanks, guys, for joining the show. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having us here.
Thanks, Matt.
It was an easy choice. I've known Michaella for a long time. I'm getting the pleasure of getting to know Isa as well, so this will be an interesting conversation because I love when couples come on. You get to hear some stories, and the other one turns and goes, well, that's not really what happened. And then you kind of find out what the truth is. So if you guys wouldn't mind, just to give people an understanding of who you are, just take literally a minute and give a quick snapshot of who you are and what you're doing at the moment. And then we can get into some of the fun stuff about your family and some of the funny things that have happened.
Sure. I'll start. I run clinical research at Penumbra, and so clinical trials on all sorts of medical devices for anywhere there's a clot in the body, clot in the brain and lungs and legs. His description of what I do is maybe a bit more clear and not my favorite, but it's true.
She runs experiments on humans.
That's what he tells people, and I'm like, no, that's not how that goes. But it's all for a good thing. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. And he's going to figure out how to make cars that we don't have to drive.
That's right. So I am a software engineer. I worked at Google on Google Search for about 12 years, but for the last year I made a big shift, and for the last year I've been I work at Waymo, working on autonomous vehicles.
And that's an interesting situation because that is as futuristic as you can possibly be from a transportation standpoint. There is a bit of push and pull on how the general public feels about that. Was it a tough decision for you to go into something like that, or were you gung-ho, that's something you always wanted to do?
I think, to me, I think a lot of the appeal comes from two places. One of them is just the technical aspect of it. I mean, it's one of the hardest technical problems we're working today. So it's just really exciting and interesting. But more importantly, I think, kind of when you look at the statistics of how many people die each year in car accidents, it is, kind of amazing. Even when you look at this, kind of next to pandemic numbers. So I think it's an easy, it was an easy choice to make, especially when I was looking at kind of going to a place where I could feel really connected with the overall impact of the technology.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, everything from Google is probably a major step culturally into something new. Yeah, we'll dive into that a little later. So the one thing I don't know about you guys is how you met. You certainly, obviously have different educations and different careers. How did you guys get connected?
We met online. It's the
Really?
classic way. Yeah. We met online and went to a bar.
In what order?
Well,
in that order. Yeah, we probably didn't chat online for very long. I think we, I don't know, exchanged a couple rounds of messages and decided that we just wanted to, have a couple drinks at a bar and, see what each other is about.
I was done with online dating. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, here's my number. I'm signing off, like, completely. And so he was like, well, let's go meet up. And I just figured, this probably won't amount to anything. And then on our first date, we talked for a few hours, and it's like, who is this person? And there we are. So.
So what was the connecting factor? Usually there's something that either you guys have in common or something that you guys both enjoy. Was there something in particular that drew you together?
I mean, I think I was impressed with, we didn't talk about work. And we talked about all the things we love to do with being in the outdoors and skiing and adventures and things. And he is just a very optimistic person and was bragging about how great the Uber driver was. And I was just sort of like, okay, this is somebody who appreciates the little things. So that's kind of what took me back. That was, I don't know about you.
I think, kind of in the like online profile thing, I mean, it's definitely first conversations. We talk a little bit about skiing and just mountain adventures, and I think that was definitely something that captivated me. But once you start meeting Michaella, you kind of get the sense that she's not someone that brags about anything, you
Yep.
know. So I kind of get a sense that this really amazing person, but she'll never tell you about it. You just kind of get this aura about her.
Listen, I'm probably the only person on the planet who would understand what you're saying because I've placed her and I've had people come up to me, board members and executives, and say, "You placed her?" I said, "Yeah," and they're just blown away by her. And you wouldn't know because Michaella and I have one other thing in common. We're both rather short of stature. So, when you first meet us, it's not like you're going to be blown away. And then you get to know her and see her work. And so I understand exactly what you mean. And she definitely doesn't give off what she's done and who she is. I mean, when she took over at Penumbra after I placed her, I mean, she walked into a situation and all of a sudden became in charge of everything. And it was just an unbelievable amount of work. And yet she did it with grace. And it was amazing to watch. I don't know if I ever told you that I was always watching you from a distance, just seeing how you would perform under the executives there. Because it's not an easy culture. It's really aggressive and fast paced. And yet, man, she was swimming with the sharks right away.
I mean, it was a fun challenge. I look back now and just like, how did that even happen? But I mean, the people are great, and that's what's unique about Penumbra is they really give us a lot of leeway to figure things out and try and experiment, and I loved that, and I still love that about Penumbra.
Well, you know what the story I remember about that most was Adam coming into a meeting really early on when you had just started, and he just made it clear that you were his person. And everybody in the room got the vibe, okay, we better get on board here because you had just started. And he, just by his presence alone. Am I remembering that right?
You are. I mean, that did happen, but even in the interview, it was very much like we talked for a while and he was like, all right, you're starting. What's the date? And I need you to come in and do a few things. And I just was so taken aback by how unconventional the whole thing was. And I loved that. I was like, oh, this is great. It's not like some hierarchical company that you got to go through all sorts of red tape to figure things out. But yeah, I was sort of surprised. I was like, I don't know who this person is, but I need to work with him.
Yeah, no, he's charismatic to say the least. Esau, do you have the same level of foodie in you that Michaella does? Whenever I'm anywhere in the world, I text her and say, I need a restaurant in wherever I am. And she always knows. Like, it doesn't matter what city, what country. And are you the same?
Well, I think we both share a big love for food. We both love cooking, and we do a lot of that at home. I don't think I have the same level of restaurant, like global restaurant knowledge and sophistication that Michaella does. She also has an incredible palate. I think that's one really interesting thing about her, both in terms of food and wine. It's really impressive of like how much, I don't know, you have a really
good or bad, I don't know,
acute ability to enjoy food and differentiate tastes. So I think we do share that foodiness.
Yeah, you haven't steered me wrong yet. What do you guys normally make? Do you have a house specialty?
Oh, all sorts of things. I mean, he makes some amazing dishes that are Brazilian, and we love to experiment with different foods. I mean, we tend to stick with a lot of Mediterranean, a lot of spices. I don't know. I think it's just if something intrigues us, but everything's, I think, fresh. I think that's what we enjoy cooking.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So you're from Brazil?
I am. Yeah,
really?
That's where I grew up and lived until I was 17 when I moved out here for college.
Oh, so you came out here for school. How was your English at that point?
It was okay. I think it was good enough to attend engineering classes. Not quite good enough to socialize at a proficient level, I'd say. So that was probably the biggest learning curve once I arrived here, was just learn how to, kind of.
So let's explore that for a bit. For those of us who don't know, he was at MIT, and so what was that like from an international standpoint? Was it folks who were limited in their English like you, or was it more like everybody felt like they were American and you were trying to keep up?
There's a big range. My freshman class, about 10% of the students were international, and really from all over the globe. there's obviously a big range from all the way from, kind of, everyone had some basic proficiency level, but all the way from that basic proficiency level to, essentially native speaker across this international students. Um, but I thought it was really enjoyable to just be part of the community and just I actually learned quite a bit of Spanish at that time, just because a lot of the people who were around me were other Latin American international students. Um, but I found that really immersing myself outside of the international student community is the thing that really helped me, both with language, but also just learning a bit more about American culture. I think that was a really valuable experience.
So to ask you one more question, because I always ask this, how does somebody from Brazil wind up at MIT?
A little bit of luck, some hard work. I mean, my case, when I was in high school, I did a lot of math and science competitions, um, which, again, the fact that I was doing that, there was quite a bit of luck and finding the right mentor. I mean, it all kind of happened to me ending up in a school that had great teachers in that space, kind of by accident, by following one of my best friends from middle school. But yeah, I ended up doing a lot of this science competitions, and through that, I kind of learned about MIT, which I probably really didn't know much about until my junior year of high school, and ended up applying.
And your family was comfortable with you leaving the country?
No,
Actually, no,
they're
they
not.
weren't.
But it wasn't in the plans. It wasn't, like, I think, um, I don't think, I think for most high school students in the US, like, their parents are very involved in their college applications. I think in my case, like, they barely knew about it really until I got my acceptance letter. So it was kind of a shock. And yeah, I think at first, kind of, yeah, my parents were. It took them quite a bit of time for them to be comfortable with that, the idea, both me living abroad and, kind of financially what that would mean.
Yeah.
So, but it came around, and it was, yeah, it was a. I'm really glad I took advantage of the opportunity. It was definitely one of those once in a lifetime kind of opportunities.
Well, and it led you here. Michaella, do you get along with them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. His family's amazing. I mean, I think that was one of the things I loved when I met him, and it's similar in my family. I have an Italian family, so lots of people, everyone's in each other's business. Everybody is just very warm and loving, and any friends are part of the family. Like, I don't know, I don't think you can get any better than that. So, I mean, we both have a whole bunch of cousins that are younger. There's a lot of parallels that are unique. Like, we're both the oldest, our parents are both the oldest. Um, we're sort of like the glue and making sure things are continuing to move and go forward. It's, I don't know, I think we just understand the other role within the family without even talking about it.
That's interesting because I found, and I only have an N of one. It's just my marriage, but usually someone's a doer and someone kind of goes along for the ride, and my wife's the doer, and I kind of just exist. But you guys both sound like doers. Do you have trouble with who's in charge?
I mean, I think we do what the other one, or what we like to do, and the other, we don't really like divide and, I guess we divide and conquer really, but he hates doing laundry, so I just do the laundry.
Okay.
I hate doing dishes. He usually just ends up doing dishes. Like, I think we just sort of acknowledge.
I think it's fair to say that by personality and energy, Michaela is someone who has an incredible amount of initiative, which
Yeah, you
is
do too.
plays a role. But another interesting thing about Michaela is that she's a born leader. Right? She'll gather people around her and put out her ideas, but not necessarily leading from the front. Just like really kind of bring a group of people together. But interesting, I think another thing that she's really good about is cultivating the passion of the people around her, including myself. So I think that creates a great dynamic that there are things that she's really passionate about, and she'll push for. She's very passionate about travel, for example, which is not much of an option at the moment, but in general, it's something that you have the initiative and kind of make it happen. But I'm, for example, passionate about building stuff and putting stuff together, and she's really great at kind of indulging me. I think I could describe it that way, and following along. I think great leaders, and I can say this definitely about Michaella, have this ability to pick moments to be a follower. And I think that I like the dynamic. It's kind of it works really well.
He builds all sorts of stuff for the house, which is just really cool. Like our dining table was built by him, and I just
both of us
did whatever. I was like, the assistant, which was great. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think there's just sort of and we're open. I think when you working in a company or in a team, it's not that different than working within the family. Like you got to talk about stuff. Or if the other one's having a really hard week or knows, like when I know he's got huge meetings or big presentations, like I'll cook most of those days because he's going to be stressed out and needs to focus on that. And I think we're pretty good at trading that off. And it's not a matter of who's doing what. It's just sort of like you step up and kind of help out when the other team member needs you. We know how to do that.
I think this is another one of Michaella's superpower. It's this intuition about people and about people's emotions. She's a very intuitive person that way, and very sensitive to like picking up with other people are the current state of mind. And I think I'm very lucky about that because exactly what like she was saying, many days I think in any relationship you're just not feeling your best, and that comes across as being grumpy perhaps, and I think I think an amazing thing about her, she's really good at reading that and not taking it personally, and kind of flexing our dynamic to kind of make everything work.
It's interesting though, you guys.
He's giving me a lot of credit here.
Yeah, well, he's looking for something later. He probably doesn't want to do dishes. So you guys took the ultimate plunge and had little Skylar. And so let's explore that a bit. So first of all, how'd you come up with the name?
Oh, well, we love the musical Hamilton.
Yeah, me too.
And so, and we just, I don't know, there's something about that show. Lin-Manuel Miranda is just so talented, and I don't know, we just feel really connected to the musical for a lot of different reasons. And it was really naming her after the Schuyler sisters from the show.
Yeah, the amount of times that soundtrack's been played in my house is miraculous. Did you see In the Heights yet?
No, but we want. I've seen it in the past.
Yeah, I've seen it on stage, but on movie, it's terrific. It's very good, and they shifted some of the storyline for Hollywood purposes. But if you like the music, you'll love it because the dancing's terrific, and he's great. He's also in Hamilton, so he always seems to see people so close to home. So Skylar is how old now? Almost a year?
8 months.
Okay. And so how does the whole dividing and conquering work when she's screaming?
I mean, I think that kind of falls on, it fell on me in the beginning. Because, I don't know, I think
most of the time it was food.
Most of the time she needed a nurse, and that was like what solved everything. So that was easy. I think it has been tough though, figuring out, because I wanted him to also feel confident that he could take care of her, and he would be really open, like, I want to do this. So there'd be different times where she'd be crying and he'd be trying to soothe her, and I would have to like mentally tell myself to not interrupt.
Yep.
Which was hard. And I probably more often than not, I would interrupt, and he'd be like, you need to let me do this. So I had to kind of take a step back and like attempt to let that occur. And eventually, as she got older, I mean, she's still so little, but I think that became a little bit easier.
More recently, when we, started kind of helping her sleep through the night, it was a nice boost for my own ego, I think, where, like, Michaella is food. So as we tried to get her to disassociate, eating in the middle of the night, I became the designated person to go in and soothe her in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Who, she doesn't immediately associate with, I get to eat now.
Yeah, we used to do it in my house. It was 1 a.m. was the cutoff. My wife could stay up late and do up to 1 a.m. I just needed a few hours sleep and I could do the rest of the night. So it was always 1 a.m. was the cutoff. And thankfully, the kids never started screaming at exactly 1 a.m. because I don't know what we would do at that point. But that was always the deal. And as you say, you develop roles together. And I just am not a late night person, but I can stay up as long as you need me to, as long as I can just get a couple hours in. And so I did a ton of late night stuff. And I found, honestly, that that's where the bonding occurs for dads is 2 a.m. singing stupid songs and the skin to skin connection and some of the things that, it's hard to get when you're a dad and your wife's nursing. You obviously can't do it. I tried, it didn't work. And so we it's an interesting dilemma almost that comes up. And now as you get towards the end of the breastfeeding at the end of the year, then it really flips because now he could do it all the time, do everything.
Yeah. I mean, paternity leave is the best thing for any co-parent. I mean, because the fact when I went back to work and he was able to take leave, like I wasn't stressed about not knowing somebody taking care of her. And I feel like that should just be a policy in the U.S. So, but it was such a special time for him to like bond with her and get to know all the little nuances and it also helped me tremendously. So I think that was a big advantage, and you could kind of learn and appreciate like, oh my gosh, this is so much work. Like, I think that's big for all co-parents that they should do it themselves and see how that goes.
No, absolutely. You get the in-laws come in to save you, and you think, oh, I took care of them. Like, no, you really didn't. Your in-law was there, or your mom was there. What'd you really do? So I was just telling the guy here that he has a young baby in our studio, and I used to have to do ponytails when my wife would travel, and it was a train wreck. I mean, I pulled more hair out of her head than put into the ponytail, and she's like, "You're doing it wrong." I'm like, "I know. Yep. This is the best I got." I don't know what to tell you. So we'll see. So I remember your brother is in the medical device community too. Isn't that right, Michaella?
Yeah, that's right.
Did he kind of follow your footsteps, or how did that all happen?
He graduated when the financial crisis occurred, and he was actually going to go into finance.
Okay.
And so he was just looking to figure something out. He always has loved numbers and has been really good with them. So he ended up joining as a temp at a medical device company. I mean, because he was so familiar with the space in 2008 when there weren't any jobs. And then actually really enjoyed it and loved the fact that he was making a difference and kind of stuck with it. And then continued learning and he was more on the data management side of things.
Were your parents in medicine as well?
My dad's an engineer. And in the medical device field. So in the 80s, like we grew up with balloon angioplasty on the floor, and that was like our show and tell.
Really?
He worked on the first stent that ever occurred, and we just thought it was a cool thing. My mom, sacrificed having a career to raise us, and I think that was probably a big driver for me to for the ambition I have, just from having a little bit of independence and having something that's mine, because she gave up a lot of that. And granted, I mean, I appreciate it more now than ever before. Like, she had a full-time job her whole life. Like, there was no stopping point in raising kids. So that's kind of how we always sort of knew about it. And I love medicine and science and the human body. So that's how I ended up in it.
Your mom got the big promotion. What do you call her? Is it Nana?
She wanted to be called Grammy.
Grandy?
Grammy.
And and Isa, what do they call your parents?
Well, my dad is vovô, which is grandpa in Portuguese.
Okay, that makes it easy.
Yeah.
My dad, his nickname is Pizza, and so no one was really fighting for that. It was a pretty easy decision. And well, he likes pizza, and it kind of just fits. So Isa, was your family mathematicians? Was this a surprise that you were this much involved in this part of the world, or was this not a surprise that your family was always mathematically inclined?
Well, my mom worked pretty much her whole life as a bank teller, so I think she dealt a lot of numbers. I think in a very, different way than I do. Probably she probably did like more math in a single day of work than I really actually do in like a whole month. But so I think her job definitely had a big kind of retail and customer aspect to it, but also a big kind of numbers and math part of it at the same time. Um, and I guess my dad's career is almost kind of complete opposite of working for the same bank her whole life. He most of his career worked as a kind of entrepreneur in the IT space. So he done a variety of different things, working with IT infrastructure across a few different industries. I think from my childhood, I remember a lot of hotels and car dealerships. Was kind of a lot of the the companies he worked with. So not necessarily math either, but he kind of always had computers around the house, and I think that was very um, it shaped a lot of the things I was interested in. I think I had this proximity to computers that kind of actually took me a long time to actually feel like that's the thing I wanted to do career wise. For
Yeah,
most
I
of high
mean,
school and most of college, actually, I really
you're going to be a professor.
thought being a math professor was the thing I wanted to do. Um, but I had a lot of exposure to computers, so I think that technology, um, proximity just helped me a ton.
Well, you guys both seem to have that in common, that your dad left balloons on the ground and his dad left motherboards. And so that between the two of you, this is what happens.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. My family, the stuff they left on the floor was always clothing. There was tailoring and other types of pants and shirts laying all over the place. And we were always told that we're not allowed to ever go into retail, that this is not the life for you. And so none of us ever did. And it's just interesting. Like in my case, it didn't take. I didn't want to do anything that they had done. Yeah, it's interesting how you don't realize you're affecting your kids in a positive way just by letting them know this is what I do. If you want to take a look at the stuff, it's right here. And sometimes it prompts questions and sometimes it doesn't, but it at least puts the conversation on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we can be role models for Skylar. I mean, I hope she grows up in a world where it's like normal for women to have any position, um, and that way she doesn't feel like there's any kind of boundaries.
Yeah, it starts at home with you normalizing that you're an executive and this is what you do. And Esau normalizes it that I'm married to an executive and this is what it is. And, my kids, that's all they see. My wife's an exec and that's all that they've known. And I work with female executives literally every day. And so I talk about it all the time at home. So my daughter is totally empowered and she's almost too far. I almost have to drag her back, say, just take it easy. You don't always have to look for a battle. But yeah, I mean, you can do it, and it's not that hard. There's several people that I've spoken to over these podcasts that I've done that are have the same conversation that you just had, and they've normalized women being on boards. They normalize women going and getting their doctorates. They normalize women going into STEM, and it just becomes it's not even a conversation. It just
Yeah.
is, and that's always the end. Is you want it just to be not even a topic.
I hope so. We'll see how things turn out. But
Yeah, well, I've known you long enough to know that your daughter is going to be blown away by you. It's funny, Isa, did she ever tell you how we met?
No, I don't think so.
So we've known each other for a while, but I never met her in person until I went to California for a visit. And she wound up working at Intersect ENT, and I was there meeting the executive team, and I got a few minutes to sit with her. And Michaella is just staring at me like lasers through my body. I'm like, why are you staring so hard at me? I don't understand. Is there something in my teeth? What is it? And she was like trying to send me some kind of telepathy. And I didn't pick up on it because I'm an imbecile that way. I don't have that kind of gene. And so I left after a bunch of meetings, and then she called me later and finally explained to me that, hey, listen, I'm thinking about other things in my career, and this may be an opportunity for us to talk about, what's next for me. And it just, even as a recruiter, this is what I do for a living, just never picked it up And I just remember your face, just you staring at me like,
I forgot about this.
yeah. And I just didn't get it at all. And so it's a good thing you called me afterwards. Then it wound up working out for you at Penumbra, and this is where it all led. But it wasn't until you called me and said, "Hey, dummy, I'm trying to explain something to you, and sometimes I need to be hit over the head." So, what do you guys envision when the travel starts back up, and trying to figure out a way to make all this work? Because you know how it goes. Once travel starts, it doesn't usually stop again. It'll probably ramp up pretty quick.
Yeah, we were just talking about this last night, actually. I think we're going to try to balance it out where if I'm traveling, he's home. We do have an au pair actually now living with
great.
us. It was wonderful. And we just knew that we would need help. So I think that's another piece of the puzzle that we've kind of put together. And then just sort of sorting out like who's going to take mornings, who's going to take evenings. So I don't think I have an answer yet because the travel hasn't started yet. But I mean, I know it'll be a lot of like off time flights. I'll take a red eye back to get back earlier and things like that, which I would do anyway, just because I liked coming home. But I think another piece of it is really being, do I have to be at this function or meeting and whatever it might be? And now with virtual, I think there'll be hopefully a mix. And then we're just kind of feel it out, and I'm sure we'll make a lot of mistakes and then we'll go from there.
When you asked about travel, I think the first thing that came to mind was not work travel. It was just, leisure travel. So I guess my mind went to a very different place.
Are you saying with Skylar or without, or both?
It feels kind of distant traveling without her at this point. So with, but we have been talking about, so my dad's family's immigrated from Japan to Brazil. My dad has actually never been to Japan, and he, we lost my grandpa, his dad, during the pandemic. So I think one thing that has been in our mind is, get to visit Japan sometime soon. Hopefully Skylar, before she's too hard to travel with. So I think that's one thing that's on our radar is plenty of vacation to Japan.
Yeah, we traveled quite a bit with our kids, and they're great travelers because of it. I mean, they were in Europe at 5-6 years old. They've been around the world for the most part as little kids. I don't even remember some of their trips, and it's now ingrained in them that going to the airport, getting on a plane, dealing with all of that comes along with travel, they're set. And so while it was painful at certain moments, I usually recommend to parents if they're asking, which I don't know if you are or not, but you better to bring them earlier than later. Just get them used to it.
No, we can't wait. I mean, I think she was only probably 8 weeks old, and we went up. We put her in a car for 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, awesome.
Had to pull over quite a few times and figure that out, but that's just it's part of our lives, and we anticipate that staying that way, and we can't wait to take her places.
Yeah, I mean, with what I remember about your travel excursions and all your things, I can't believe that you wouldn't want to share that with her. And then the three of you share it together. It's like the first time that she sees Disney World, the first time she sees the Eiffel Tower, the first time that she sees, whatever it is, you see it through her eyes that time.
Yeah.
And really that's where the magic happens. Well, look, I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you. I mean, obviously I've known you, but it was a pleasure getting to know you, Sal. I'm thrilled that you guys came on together. It's beautiful behind you. I can't get over. This may be the best setting that we've ever had.
It's beautiful here.
Yeah. So thank you from the family business where families what binds us. This is Manisa Fujiwara and Michaella Corso. Thanks so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It was my pleasure.
Bye.
See ya.